Welcome to the Expat Edge with Marcus and Matt, where we answer your questions about becoming an expat to help you thrive abroad.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the Expat Edge. Today we want to talk about 4 countries that are great to go to instead of going to Russia. As you know, there's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, and there's lots of instability between the two countries. We want to share with you 4 countries that have a lot of potential, are growing rapidly, and might give you some of the same experiences that we had in Russia. And I would say it would be Uzbekistan, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. Marcus, I know you know quite a few people from Uzbekistan. You have a business partner from there. What do you think is interesting about Uzbekistan?
Yeah, so I've never been to Uzbekistan. I've always wanted to visit, but based on my interactions with people from Uzbekistan in all over Russia and my business partner, they're just a very kind of laid back people. It seems like I don't think I ever got in an argument, with an Uzbek. Right. The food is good that I've tried in Russia. So at an Uzbek restaurant. So that's just one country that is, you could go to Uzbekistan, get by with some Russian if you're studying Russian or you know some Russian. I would feel very comfortable. Right. Going to Uzbekistan and traveling around. So that's kind of the one country I'd probably go to first out of the list that you mentioned.
Right. I also think it's a culturally rich country. They've got lots of amazing things to do and see from a tourist perspective. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but I think there's almost 40 million people in Uzbekistan. It's a massive country by European standards. The next, I would say Georgia. I have been to Georgia a number of times. It's a fantastic country. I think it's a bit more difficult now to get by speaking Russian, simply because the younger people there are all learning English, which I think is great, obviously. But Georgia also, amazing food, great kind of local people. They're very friendly.
Yeah, the food is so good.
Oh, I know. One thing I miss about living in that part of the world is instead of Chinese food, they've got Georgian food everywhere.
Right.
But really, people are so nice. And Georgia, it's got stunning mountains. It's also got, the Black Sea. They've got kind of a tropical area. For such a small country, it's got a very diverse landscape in terms of nature. And again, there's lots of history in Georgia as well. So lots to do and see. And it is, relatively close to Europe in terms of flights.
Yeah, one of our business partners we've been working with when we were doing tourism to Russia, they made the switch to, they were in the south part of Russia, and they made the switch to Georgia when all of this happened with the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. They made the switch back right at the beginning in February, March. And the views that I've seen,
it's a
the pictures that
place.
they've put together for their tours and their climbs, their mountain climbing tours, they're just amazing. And so that would definitely be, a place that I'd want to visit as well.
I actually can't believe you haven't been to Georgia yet, because you're so close, living in Germany.
I almost feel like I've been to Georgia because of, how many Georgian people you meet in Russia, right, and all the Georgian restaurants. But all my interactions with Georgian people have been, taxi drivers, service people. We had this very nice concierge in one of our buildings. I would chat with her all the time, and one thing that I kind of didn't realize was that it was an older lady, as a concierge, but she was very white, and I didn't know that Georgian people could also have like a very fair complexion.
Right.
I thought I thought Georgian people were darker and things like that. So that's definitely a place that I need to visit soon.
Yes. And then the next one I would say is Kyrgyzstan. And we're not doing these in any order, but Kyrgyzstan, totally underrated country. I haven't been there, but one of my closest friends, I've met a lot of people from Kyrgyzstan as well, but one of my closest friends lived in Bishkek for a long time. And he I would say of all of these countries, they probably speak Russian the most. So if you've been learning Russian, you could easily go to Kyrgyzstan and get by with only Russian just about everywhere. Maybe some of the small villages it might be difficult, but in general they speak Russian very, very well in Kyrgyzstan. But really an underrated country. Again, food's great, hospitality, the people like foreigners coming to their country. Obviously, Kyrgyzstan probably doesn't get many international tourists. Most people are probably there for a reason. But that's what makes it great. I mean, I don't know about you, Marcus, but one of the things that was great about Russia in the very beginning was that there were really no tourists. Like all the people there, it felt like an off the beaten path kind of place, even though Moscow is a big city. But if you go to Kyrgyzstan, it is going to feel off the beaten path, and you will be rewarded with much more authentic experiences than in Western Europe or some of these other highly touted expat destinations.
I think for digital nomads and expats who are working online, that those countries are a place that you should definitely look into if you're looking into kind of that area of the globe. All my interactions, again, with people from Kyrgyzstan have been very pleasant. Not a ton of them, but many of them were taxi drivers. And, if you're in Russia and you take a taxi, you'll definitely notice the difference between somebody from these countries. Yeah. I met a Georgian guy who spoke really good English, and just we talked for a long time. And the thing that they had in common was that they spoke very, very highly of their home country, the nature.
Yes.
And the thing that drew them to Russia was just economics. Right. They wanted a better job and to send money back. But I would kind of joke like, hey, can I come visit your home? And they're like, yeah, of course. And they were totally serious.
Super proud.
I was kind of like, well, let's just have a superficial conversation. But they like said, okay, take my number down, call me. And very, very hospitable.
Right. And then the last country, Kazakhstan, I would say is obviously a super diverse country. But I, in my day job, work for a law firm, and we have offices in Kazakhstan. And I've spoken with my colleagues there, and they say it's a beautiful place. The mountains in Kazakhstan, also very diverse landscape. Kazakhstan is a huge country. Most people don't know that, but it's a very big country. It doesn't seem it because it's between Russia and China, but if you compare it to other European countries, it's massive. But I think it's really, quite like Russia in a lot of ways, at least in how the cities look. There's lots of Russians in some of the areas of Kazakhstan, especially now after many of them are running from the mobilization in Russia. So you could probably get by with Russian in Kazakhstan as well. It's probably the country I know the least about of these four, although, like I said, I've met many people who speak very highly of Kazakhstan.
Many, many years ago, I worked at a call center where we, serviced, we would take calls in Russian from the Russian markets. And I played a role in opening Ukraine and Kazakhstan, all those former USSR countries. And, all my, again, limited interaction with people from Kazakhstan. I've met a few in Russia and helping these, individuals build their business in Kazakhstan at that company. But all of them were very, very pleasant. And I would say, similar to Russia, where they're very willing to help when you need help.
Right. And one thing I would say, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, they're almost a blend of Russian and Turkish culture. I mean, no offense to anyone if they take it that way. I mean that purely in a positive way. But you have all of the great aspects of Turkish culture, like really being welcoming and wanting, guests to have a great time. I mean, they do that in Russia too, but it's not quite to the same level as Turkey. And the food culture is quite a bit more developed in these countries than it is in Russia, for example, where food is usually quite basic. And but people are also very proud of where they come from, even if nobody knows these countries. And I always find that that's really fun to be there and learn more about those countries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking for a destination other than Russia to either kind of experience a similar culture, if you probably say that to a Georgian or somebody from Uzbekistan, they might say, well, no, we're totally different.
Right.
But from an outsider's, they might be, much more similar, of course, than from the US or Europe.
Right.
But these destinations are places that you should definitely consider and look into. And it's not very difficult to stay long term in some of these places, like Uzbekistan, for example. You can get my business partner has told me that you can get a 1-year residence permit fairly easily.
Right.
So, and then Georgia has a digital nomad.
Well, it's not really digital nomad visa. It's basically
year.
visa free for anyone for a year.
For a year, yeah. So, yeah, that's a great list, and I would recommend anybody to consider those countries.
Right. And if you need help with any of those countries, let us know in the comments or reach out to us, and we'd be happy to put you in touch with people who can help. We'll see you in another video.
This was the Expat Edge with Matt and Marcus. We hope you enjoyed the video. Visit theexpatedge.com for even more content that will help you thrive abroad. You can submit your ideas for video topics and sign up for free at theexpatedge.com. See you there.